let's talk for a few moments about why scientists are going down this path. What are the treatments and cures that they anticipate, knowing that scientists have only been working with embryonic stem cells for about 10 years or so? What do they see happening?
Right. As I've said before, relative to adult stem cells, we've only had the ability to study embryonic stem cells for a very short period of time. But scientists are working on cures for a number of diseases, most notably Parkinson's and diabetes. And while these diseases are both complex, they both are generally due to the loss of a single type of cell in a very discrete location in the body. Parkinson's disease, for example, is due to the loss of cells in the brain in a very specific location that secrete a chemical called dopamine into the environment. Juvenile diabetes, as we've heard earlier, is due to the loss of insulin-secreting cells in the pancreas that produce and secrete insulin in the body. And so what we're trying to do with stem cells is to be able to replace these cells, and so that we can put these cells back into those locations in the body and have them continue or start secreting dopamine in the case of Parkinson's, or insulin in the case of juvenile diabetes, so that we can treat these diseases.
And I imagine the hope would be that children like Gabriel won't have to walk around with an insulin pump,
right,
and prick their finger every day.
Right, right. And so juvenile diabetes, is particularly amenable to this type of therapy. As we've heard, juvenile diabetes is the result of the death of the insulin-producing cells, and so that to replace the insulin in the body, young kids, children like Gabriel, need to administer insulin throughout the day. And so imagine what it would be like for those patients if we could produce the cells such that we could replace the insulin-secreting cells, put them back into the body so that they no longer have to be dependent upon insulin, or less dependent upon insulin. And in fact, precedent for that kind of experiment already exists. About a decade ago, I guess, some Canadian scientists and physicians developed a protocol where they can take insulin-producing cells from organ donors, recently deceased people, harvest those cells and transplant them back into diabetic patients. And this was a small subset of people, and like all new approaches, had some drawbacks. But it worked in a subset of those people, and so it was a very important proof of principle experiment that replacing dead and dying cells with new cells in concept works. And in juvenile diabetes especially, at this point, adult stem cells have not been identified in the pancreas. So embryonic stem cells represent a very concrete example of hope for people suffering from diabetes as a potential treatment and or cure for this lifelong disease.
Well, I only have one more question, that I want to send you back to your lab to find that cure. I don't want to take too long. Right now, Michigan law prevents you and your colleagues from proceeding with research using discarded embryos to look for cures with Parkinson's and diabetes, as we've just talked about. I think you also mentioned that there are other states in the country where the researchers are allowed to proceed with this kind of research. Where does this put Michigan?
Without a doubt, this puts Michigan behind. For example, the University of Michigan is one of the top 5 institutions worldwide in its impact on research with adult stem cells. But because of the way the laws are in Michigan, people who are interested in embryonic stem cell research don't even apply to the University of Michigan for these positions. They apply to places like California, for example, who has invested $3 billion over the next 10 years to beef up their infrastructure and their stem cell research within the state. other states, including our neighbor Wisconsin, are far ahead of Michigan in terms of developing, promoting, and even funding stem cell research in their state. And not only is Michigan and their laws out of line with neighboring states and the country, they're also out of line with their own citizens. A number or a vast majority of citizens, when polled, support embryonic stem cell research and all types of stem cell research. And Michigan's only going to get left farther behind when the next president, whomever that might be, loosens the current federal restrictions on stem cell research. Both the candidates have promised to do that. And so it's really time for Michigan scientists to be able to fully participate in to seek treatments and cures for these diseases that affect thousands of Americans. And that's what we're hoping for.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Mosier, for coming here today and for all your work in helping us educate the community about the science and certainly the cures that we hope will be not too far in the future.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I hope you're right.
Lynn?
Thank you again for your comments. I learn more each time we have a training session like this, Marcia. I hope that the listeners and viewers will simply learn more like I am about the subject, because I think that it's only by being informed that we can make an intelligent movement in a positive direction. And Marcia, how can the viewers learn more about your organization?
Well, our organization's mission, as you know, and we share a mission of education with the Rotaries, is to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to learn and ask questions about what we've talked about today. There is a website, stemcellresearchformichigan.com. Your researchers can go, your audience can go to that website, and on it there are a whole host of frequently asked questions. There's a section on various views and an opportunity to ask questions, and if we don't know the answers, we'll turn to our researchers like Dr. Mosier to get the answers to those who ask.
Well, I'd like to thank our guests for today, Kathy and Gabriel Curry and Dr. Jack Mosier. I think we've learned something from all of them, and I really appreciate their willingness to participate in this program. So if you want to learn more about Michigan Citizens for Stem Cell Research and Cures, please check into their website. Thanks again for watching. This is Lynn Morgan for Rotary Information Series Stem Cell Research. Thanks.